Welcome to State of Tech, Synechron's innovation podcast. Synechron is a leading global digital transformation consulting firm focused on financial services and big technology organizations. Our State of Tech podcast hosts subject matter experts and business leaders as they explore emerging technologies, industry insights, innovation trends, and more. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, and welcome from the Synechron offices in Amsterdam and London. Today we focus on the EU DORA regulation and on one of its so-called pillars, third-party risk management, or TPRM. The DORA regulation, entering into force in January next year, aims to improve the operational resilience of financial entities like banks and insurers. My name is Marc van Dongen, Enterprise Architect here in the Netherlands. And for this podcast, I'm joined by Masha Stotcenko, John Moorcroft, and Stuart English, some of Synechron's most experienced consultants on operational resilience. Hi, Masha.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Stuart.
Hi there.
And John.
Hi.
Thanks to the three of you for finding some time to share your experiences with DORA implementation at Synechron clients. Stuart, if I just can start with you, for whom is third-party risk management relevant?
TPRM impacts many functions within a variety of organizations, so this podcast will be relevant to many groups. Managing third-party risk under DORA isn't just a technical issue, nor is it purely a business concern. It's a multi-disciplinary challenge requiring cross-functional collaboration across IT, risk management, the business divisions, the providers themselves, and obviously the customers. Collaboration across these areas is critical for effective third-party risk management, but it can also be challenging to manage effectively. As we know, with the latest regulatory technical standards that were released on the 17th of July, the clock is ticking. We have less than 5 months left. From what we see working with our clients, many are still grappling with the complexities of aligning their third-party risk management practices with the DORA requirements. In many cases, their TPRM processes are nascent. They are making progress, but there's a noticeable urgency as the deadline approaches. TPRM is also one area of DORA where there is a big dependency on others in order to make progress. But what I mean by that is, for example, where firms are reliant on their providers to respond to their due diligence requests in order for them to formulate and understand their risk position. So in some cases, progress can be out of their control. So I think the key takeaway here is that a well-disciplined cross-functional collaboration is essential to navigate these challenges effectively. And remember that the entire industry is in the same boat as regards to provider dependencies that may be out of your control.
So you can say the financial players are making progress. But with January just around the corner, Masha, what do you think? Will all of them meet that deadline in less than 5 months from now?
It looks like most organizations will struggle to meet that deadline, and a lot of them won't. The main reason, complexity. Especially now with the published technical standards, implementing DORA is difficult due to the level of detail and broad scope from IT to outsourcing. On top of that, organizations are trying to apply the proportionality principle while still ensuring compliance. Another challenge is the lack of understanding of what impact DORA has on organization. This makes any DORA implementation program quite a challenge.
Right, so we can safely say that implementing DORA and TPRM is a complex undertaking for many financials. Well, John, can we focus a little bit more on that quite intricate DORA pillar called third-party risk management?
Well, Mark, as the world's financial systems become increasingly and arguably totally ICT dependent, more and more organizations depend upon third parties as part of their end-to-end business processes. Whether that's through outsourcing of functions that could be done internally, or indeed receiving IT services and information feeds that could not reasonably be conducted by the organizations themselves. For example, software as a service, data or information feeds, third-party licensed software, third-party hosting of organizational managed ICT applications, be that through cloud providers or through third-party data centers. One of the big challenges is that end-to-end responsibility for IT services is no longer only with the provider. The organization receiving the service also has an obligation to understand how the service is composed and what the associated risks are. Where internal risks are becoming better understood and tend to remain within the direct control of the organizations, third-party risk is not always as well understood and usually more challenging to manage through reduced visibility and through reduced control.
So why is that, John? I mean, is third-party risk management that more challenging?
Well, not really in and of itself. Third-party risk management at its core is very simple and no different to any other kind of risk management. What could go wrong? What can we do to stop those things going wrong or mitigate the effects should the worst happen? Are we doing those things? And are we acting upon areas of high residual risk? It's not fundamentally different. However, there's different aspects to third parties that are maybe not as well understood by organizations yet.
So if TPRM boils down to standard risk management, what is the issue here then? Is it a matter of getting the right TPRM controls in place?
Some of the ways third-party risk can be managed are understanding what third parties are used for and by what parts of the business. Understand how the third parties fit within the overall organization's ICT ecosystems. Understand and manage concentration risk, be that of overuse of a single third party through to geographical risk and any other areas of concentration. Ensure appropriate contractual provisions in place, which is a broader subject in itself, and we'll touch on that later. Understand the third party's own risk management maturity and provisions through due diligence, and implement the appropriate levels of service management reviews.
That still sounds a little bit theoretical, if you allow me. Can you give some practical examples of the areas where we need to look?
Yes, of course. All areas of the regulation that apply to pure ICT functions must be in scope for third-party risk management. And this, of course, includes policies and standards, processes and procedures, key risk indicators, controls, testing, management information and reporting, and of course, all overseen by appropriate governance and oversight. Fundamentally, though, DORA sits at the intersection of business, ICT, and third parties. And linking these three silos together is one of the main challenges. It's necessary to bring expertise and information from each of these three areas together through a third-party risk lens. And it's often the case in organizations that there's a fair amount of siloing, and those three pillars aren't necessarily always as well linked together as we want them to be.
Now, John, you just mentioned that the end responsibility for IT services is no longer only with its provider, but with all contracting parties, like some kind of supply chain. Stuart, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right. Responsibility in the main sits with the service provider contracted to provide a service to a financial entity that a critical or important function is dependent on. But there are questions and challenges that arise from that. Not only does a financial entity have third parties that they're dependent on, but those providers themselves may also have third parties of their own, and so on and so forth ad infinitum. So one key consideration here is how far along that supply chain does the financial entity need to go for due diligence purposes to understand their risk. DORA doesn't clearly define the point where responsibility fully shifts, but given the overall accountability of the critical service sits with the financial entity, they have to take a proportionate approach to managing that risk. So when we start to think about those third, fourth, even maybe fifth parties, an area firms should focus on is maybe including a right to audit in their contracts. Because by doing that, and back to John's point, it will enable the firms to have more visibility into their third parties and indirectly have more control. If we think about the parties that are further down the chain, to a degree, those fourth parties can be addressed to a reasonable level by auditing the third parties. But if there are no audit rights further down the chain, then it does become a balance of risk management for that financial entity. So something that is really important here is to define that process with that right to audit, define the rules of engagement, and to stick to it consistently.
All right, I get it. DORA is diverse, affects many business areas, and assumes expert knowledge of several IT domains. It doesn't surprise me that with the deadline in 5 months from now, most financials still will have some work to do. So, to the three of you, if you are working with third parties, what would be our recommended course of action? John?
Well, with just 5 months to go, it's time to create a real sense of urgency. This isn't just another checkbox exercise. Failing to comply with DORA can lead to enhanced scrutiny from regulators. And trust me, the last thing you want is to be stuck in an audit where every aspect of your operation is put under a microscope. that kind of attention can be costly, both financially and reputationally.
And another thing to consider is the proportionality principle. Organizations must understand what it means for them. DORA is not a one-size-fits-all regulation. It considers your company's size, complexity, and risk profile. But whether you are a large institution or a smaller player, you need to understand where your gaps are and how to close them.
Totally agree. And the road to compliance is short. January is just around the corner. The time to act is definitely now. DORA puts a spotlight very much on third-party risk management, and any vulnerabilities in your supply chain could become your Achilles heel. Definitely take the time to assess your third-party relationships, those contracts, and ensure that they are up to the task.
So then our message probably should be better get your act together. Even if you think you will not meet the January deadline, you should at least have plans prepared and know what something like proportionality means in the context of your organization. Increase DORA awareness and knowledge and prepare the essentials. Is that it, Masha?
Yes, you are correct. Organizations need to raise awareness and have implementation plans in place to know what the road to compliance looks like, even if they know meeting the January deadline will not be feasible.
Well, then let's hope that our listeners can use these practical recommendations. Thank you, Masha, John, and Stuart, for your time and insights. And thanks to our listeners. Let's meet next time, when we will be dealing with another aspect of DORA. From London and Amsterdam, we wish you a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Synechron State of Tech podcast. Don't forget to like and share this episode, and subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest and innovative technologies savvy businesses need to know about. To learn more about Synechron, head to our website at www.synechron.com. Stay tuned.